Man, it is the age of staged global destabilization on every front. We are going to be looking at the latest ISIS activities as staged provocations are developed and deployed ahead of possible U.S.-Syria war. Only in the bizarro world of the New World Order, with an ignorant global population about how the world really works, could you have a situation where rebels funded and armed by the West, from Israel to Turkey to Jordan to the United States to France to England, NATO, all involved for 4 years arming Wahhabist, jihadi Islamic State, Al-Qaeda in Iraq, scum of the earth, to attack Assad, to attack Gaddafi, to attack the Egyptian government, our supposed ally that got double-crossed. They're now attacking Jordan, who helped train them. They're now even threatening Saudi Arabia, that's funding them. It's just a bunch of wild, murdering demons who have just been turned loose. So they're attacking anything and everything, including each other. It's like a satanic ideology is the only way to describe it. And they are now running around like a pack of starving piranhas with all these heat-seeking missiles. I talked to a, quote, city official yesterday that I ran into at Barton Springs, and he said, you don't know about the surface-to-air missiles? And I knew who the guy was. I went and looked him up. I'm not going to say his name. He goes, this is off record, my name, but you can bring it up. You didn't know that they found surface-to-air missiles just a couple of years ago crossing the border out of Mexico and were found at the Salvation Army in Austin? And so I'm going to have to investigate into that. And he said, that's all I'm telling you, look into it. And I'm sure the police out there that are more senior, they know about it. Maybe you can call in and give us the specifics. But that's just how bizarre all of this is getting. Just crates outside the Salvation Army show up in the alley, I guess, to be picked up by somebody else, and somebody else went and looked at them and said, what are these, and called the police. And notice you never heard about it on the news. And his words were, it was quite a few crates. I don't mean to go off on a jag about that. It's just that's how bizarre the world is. But I've been so busy this summer, I hadn't even been to Barton Springs but one other time. So I went over there yesterday afternoon after getting a bunch of errands and company work done. And this fella comes over. I knew I recognized him, and he introduced himself. And about 2 minutes into the conversation, sitting there in the Springs, he said, oh, yeah, we're talking about Al-Qaeda and surface-to-air missiles. And he said, you heard about the Salvation Army and the missiles, right? And I said, excuse me? No, I never heard about that. Imagine what else is going on. Imagine, I mean, we confirmed missing nukes out of Daesh earlier this year. And remember, right after we reported it, all hell broke loose the next 3 days with threats of nukes going off right where we said they went. And Lindsey Graham going on CBS News and saying brace for nukes to go off.
Celebrate the spirit of freedom and liberty upon which our nation was founded at InfoWarsShop.com. Molon Lave is ancient Greek for come and take it. This popular design combines both classic Greek Spartan imagery with modern M16 assault rifles. Now available in women's tees and proudly made in the USA. And now you can protect yourself from corrupt cops with the InfoWars dash cam. It's your car's black box that records all that the driver sees and hears. And introducing the Block It Pocket. It renders your phone undetectable while protecting your private data and your health. Or take back your privacy and protect your personal information by getting your very own Detractor cell phone pouch. So get incredibly high-quality, freedom-based products and help fund the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
We have architect and engineer Richard Gage joining us with updates on the scientific impossibility that was the official narrative of 9/11 and his progress getting tens of thousands of other engineers and others to go public and a lot of new evidence that's come out. And we'll tie that into ISIS and Al-Qaeda and Saudi Arabia all basically being protected by criminals inside of Western systems, both corporate and governmental, in the security apparatus that wishes to fully take over society and set itself on a throne of totalitarian surveillance and paramilitary oppression, martial law eternal, over all economic systems, over religious systems, over the family, the total control freak technocracy, the scientific dictatorship. And it's being delivered to us through contrived medical crises, collapsing border crises, radical Islamic, jihadi crises, energy crises, where every sector of the economy is gamed. Let's just give you some of the headlines here. UK police say merely watching a James Foley beheading video may be an act of terrorism. Man, you talk about political correctness. England is the model of mental oppression, where you can't even criticize youth burning down your city or you're a racist. And they're bringing that here. Last year, people thought we were joking when we reported it. It was mainstream news. With a straight face, they said, do not bring brown bags to city buildings. They are racist. No one ever claimed a brown bag had any... That's like saying you can't have white sheets on your bed because it secretly means you're a Klan member. Or you can't have a white car. If a black guy's driving a white car, he must be a Klan member. And again, they know it's mentally ill. They're getting you to accept an idea where all human activity and all information is basically a crime selectively enforced. It's like the different supplement laws they've passed in California, where you can't even have 1 part per million of lead in any of your supplement when there's like 20 parts per million in 1 bite of cabbage on average. Or you breathe in 55 parts per million a day, basically anywhere in the country. But a supplement can't even have over 0.5 1 parts per million. Nothing, basically there's nothing out there but things like pure iodine that doesn't have something else in it. So they can then selectively shut down all the supplements. Just like they passed gun regulations in California that are impossible to follow. So all the manufacturers leave because microstamping's a fraud and doesn't work. See, this is how they're shutting us down. Before I get into all the news, let me give you an example, because I was thinking about this yesterday as a sign of the country collapsing. Just 3 or 4 years ago, a good steak was $20. Then you go to the same restaurant, a year later, it's $35. Then it's $45. Now, that same steak is $60. This is why my Republic stuff. I was looking at a menu last night at a steakhouse, went out with some friends, and I literally couldn't even order a steak and eat it. I was so freaked out that all the steaks were like $60 or more. And it wasn't that I didn't have the money to buy the steak. It was that I was freaked out. The sign. They say Joe Kennedy sold out of all his stock a week before the crash of '29. because he was out front his brokerage firm, and a shoeshine boy ran up to him telling him what stock to buy. And it's basically like one of those signs of just how everything is teetering and how the inflation is exploding. And poor people just can't get by now to pay for the gas and the insurance and the food and the clothes for their kids. And they're working 2-3 jobs on, just trying to make it. And their kids are being raised by television and by the gangster kids in the neighborhood. And it's all designed to destroy the family, to turn women into slaves of the government, to make them work, to make them pay taxes. You can just see it degenerating faster and faster. Here's a microcosm. I know the beef business. We've raised cattle since 1829 in the same area of East Texas. And I know people that are in the steakhouse business, and I know people that are in the meat packing business, and I know the people that own some of the biggest herds in the country. So I'm not a super expert like a cattleman, but I understand the business. I know how it works. That's why I told you a few years ago, get ready for your beef prices to double, triple, quadruple, which they've now done, because, let me explain this. Almost everyone is going bankrupt in the cattle business because the government has set up regulations and rules where it's basically impossible to make money. While the beef is the most expensive it's ever been because of 2 different issues. The big meat packers, there's only 3 big ones now, got together, got federal rules passed, control the inspectors, to shut down thousands of meat packing facilities that have been open in some cases over 200 years in the case of the East Coast, to shut down family-owned and small corporate chains all over the country that were providing poultry, beef, fish, you name it, using regulations. There are no more real cattle auctions that go on. If they still have the cattle auction, it's being controlled by the big 3. They get all the meat. They then fix the prices behind the scenes. So you would think that the rancher would be making record profits. No. They're going bankrupt because it's so gamed, they've got to sell it for the lowest price ever. Then it all goes up to the meat packing facilities, who are literally above the law, can have all the violations they want, you name it, do unspeakable things. The quality goes down. They can ship in meat they want, but only by the big cartels that have greased Congress and the states. And then you have the dollar being devalued, so that's why meat across the board is going up, because the eggs are gamed now. Fish is gamed now. See, people think business now is just about having the best product or the best marketing, and that's part of it. But more and more, it's just being smart enough to be able to navigate all of the gangsters in government and corporations that literally try to shut you down if you do anything. If you have a news website, if you sell supplements, if you sell films, if you sell Made in America T-shirts, if you hire a casting facility to make a few thousand belt buckles, the bureaucrats come in and try to shut it down. They don't want anybody operating in this country. That's why they've had thousands of arrests and fines across the country in what Forbes magazine called the war on lemonade stands. That's why they're having wars on farmers markets and wars on Amish and wars on people putting up their own solar power that isn't hooked into the grid. You hook up wind power across this country or solar on your own farmhouse, you're going to have inspectors showing up within a year, freaking out, wanting to tear it off your house and just hyperventilating. They're here to shut this country down. You understand? This is an Agenda 21 war. And I was talking to one of the biggest cattlemen in Texas who was going to build his facility with a state-of-the-art stainless steel. They were about to buy the property 2 years ago to then bring their premium Black Angus, one of the top breeders in the country, directly to market to sell to steakhouses across Texas and in their own steakhouse. And came to the conclusion, you're just not allowed to. That's America. That's America. Rich people can't start a business in America because you're not part of the made mafia. And that's what creates a third world country, and that's what the political parties are doing. The only reason Texas is doing okay compared to all the other states is we never allowed a bunch of that mafia crap to go on here. We're falling as well. It's all happening now here. It is so sad to see our country fall. You go back about 15 years ago on the subject I was just covering before the break, how Agenda 21 is regulation to shut down all competition that the globalists then exempt themselves from. You'll notice most water systems in Canada and the U.S. are now owned by European companies. And they'll come into small towns, you name it, and say, you know, you can't even have so many parts per million of arsenic in your water. Well, basically any water in the world is going to have tiny trace amounts of arsenic in it. They don't care if there's fluoride, hundreds of other deadly things they're even adding in what they call fluoride. They don't care about that. They only got that regulation passed with the lawyers so they can make towns and cities upgrade, in some cases, billions of dollars to put in new expensive systems that with all the filtration and the rest of it ends up adding more toxins back in, but then you get a waiver and it's okay. And then they give you this toxic toilet-to-tap crud that fish would die in if they were put in it. But you put fish in clean aquifer water, they would live. Oh, but you can't have aquifer water. We've got to add fluoride and chlorine to it. And we've got to put it through all these expensive filtration systems so these Dutch and British and German and French companies can literally rake us over the coals because they understand how business is done in an oligopoly, in a monopoly. They just come over, get the laws passed by the legislatures, get their specific patented filtration systems approved, and then you've got to buy it. See how that works? And if the locals won't sign on to it, well, you just send in the EPA. Oh, you've got a Range Rover that's 20 years old? We're going to send a SWAT team of 6 people to your house from Homeland Security to bust down your door. Oh, you're at a swap meet selling fake Dallas Cowboy hats? We're going to send a SWAT team from Homeland Security. See, it's all about these. Oh, our borders can be wide open. Mainstream news is reporting that ISIS is working with the drug cartels on the Texas border. That's come out of the CIA. We're going to get into that report. But none of that's a threat. You can have GMO that sterilizes the rodents that eat it. You can have glyphosate in almost every water supply that literally destroys your kidneys, feminizes men and gives women breast cancer on record, estrogen-based tumors. All of that is okay. But if you've got 1 part per million of arsenic in your water, well, then you can't drink it. Even though that's a low level naturally in any water supply on the earth, whether it's the ocean or Lake Superior. Just like the EPA and the FDA and the rest of them are passing thousands of pages of new regulation every year, even if Congress won't sign on to it, what do? They just say, oh, well, it's our policy to shut down our power plants. Nothing comes out of a 5th generation, they're going into the 6th generation now, coal-powered plant. Nothing but water vapor and carbon dioxide that plants live off of. Then they put off oxygen, the life cycle. Nothing comes out. Zero. With federal sensors on the top of the smokestacks, because they're not smokestacks, they're steam stacks. And the media will point cameras at those and say, look at our polluted world, look at all the smoke, look at the smog. Meanwhile, Mexico has no controls and builds power plants right across the border. And, oh, our government's happy to have the power from Mexico come in or to have our jobs sent to India or China with no controls, where black smoke and soot comes out of these totally dirty and rains down on the whole world. That's okay. See, would you rather have the coal burned here to have clean jobs and clean industry, or burned in China dirty? Well, see, Al Gore and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the globalists and the Dutch royalty and the British royalty, look at who owns it. They all own the major industries in China with the Communist Party. They put in power in 1949, and they want it there. So incredibly cheap, nobody can compete. And then they act like they're the ones behind the environmental movement in this country that they allowed to grow and then took over and used as a tool of oppression. I didn't mean to go off on that jag about regulations and how they operate and how they work. I want people to understand what this is really all about. Let's get into the news, and then we're going to get our reporters on for a breakdown on the incredible developments in Ferguson. Some very good developments, also some bad developments. But here are the headlines. UK police merely watching James Foley beheading video may be an act of terrorism. That's right. The head of the 7/7 bombings was British MI6 intelligence. My film Terror Storm breaks that down. Our government, the British government, has openly funded al-Qaeda in Iraq, renaming them ISIS and then IS. And now they think we're so dumb, they're saying we have to topple Assad because that's where ISIS has a base in Syria. That's how stupid. Remember Kerry said last year, we must hit Syria. They have chemical weapons. They will attack us. We have the proof. Turned out it was a false flag launched by al-Qaeda, ISIS, out of Saudi Arabia, working with Turkey. That's been in the BBC. That's been admitted. And no one got in trouble. That's the incredible part about this now. Used to, if a president got caught using the IRS to go after innocent people for political purposes, they had to step down, like Richard Nixon. Now it's like MSNBC says, of course we're coming after the Tea Party. You're racist scum. Of course the IRS is going to arrest you. I'm Rachel Maddow. Flaming authoritarians. These are not liberals. These are scary people. That's why when they indicted Rick Perry, he's facing 99 years as the Texas governor. We have a great report. It was out 2 days ago. I might play that today. It's so powerful that John Bowne went down and got the whole press conference, not just snippets. And I've been a big critic of Rick Perry. But Rick Perry compared to Obama, that is a lesser of two evils. Sure, he worked for Al Gore. Sure, he was a Democrat. Sure, he's a politician. Sure, I know who Rick Perry really is. But I know the state law. I know what he did. I knew what all the lawyers would come out. Even Axelrod, the former chief of staff of the White House, Obama's mentor, said this is shady and wrong. It is a fraud. Folks, if you can arrest a governor for threatening to veto state funding through a state program, that's what a governor is supposed to do. It's the office of the governor, the office of Texas, the legitimacy of separation of powers. That's what I said day one. That's what Rick Perry said, because that's the truth. See, they're not attacking Rick Perry now, folks. They're attacking everybody. If they can put him in jail for 99 years for following the law, everybody's in trouble. That isn't Rick Perry, folks. That's Matt Drudge. That's Alex Jones. That's Joseph Farah. That's the free press. That's state government up there now. People are like, yeah, but they're a bunch of politicians. Don't you want to see them go to jail? That's mindless Roman decline. That you just celebrate some big guy falling. If Rick Perry got indicted, if it was found that he took money from Merck to push Gardasil on people, throw him in jail. But you'll see, they'll never send somebody to jail because then they'd all go to jail for all the real stuff they're doing. Think about all the stuff Obama's done. I haven't even gone off on that. There is so much news. It's like I can't even cover it. It's just overwhelming. Do you know how many hundreds of Republicans and libertarians they've been arresting for trumped up crap? If you're in a Democratic-controlled area, it's the Democrats that are doing it. And you bounce one check when you haven't bounced a check in 20 years. I saw a case of this. They're watching it in live time in the bank's report it through data systems now, and the cops come and arrest you. If you have overdue library books and you're a conservative Tea Partier, they'll come arrest you. That's called Nazi Germany, folks. That's when they come and take you before some weird Democrat jury. That's why all these professors are on TV saying, if you're in the Tea Party, don't come in my class, I'll kill you. I'll put you in a body bag. That's why they're on the news going, Alex Jones is behind the Boston bombing and deeply racist, and he wants to kill police. Blah, 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 blah. They're demonizing me ahead of setting me up. That's what they do before they set you up. Rick Perry actually put some troops on the border and actually ordered the state police to arrest people that are felons and to hold them and to make the feds deport them. And so they're coming after Rick Perry, folks, because Rick Perry smelled the wind, picked up the scent of the tide of fortune, and he knows the Tea Party could take the country over. And so he has actually been moving in a libertarian direction for real for the first time in his life, not just a bunch of talk. He sees Ted Cruz and Rand Paul at the head of the pack with integrity, not being politicians. And so he's getting in line, and they're scared of him now. Because the word from high-level Republicans was last round, they thought he was the only one that could beat Obama. But he had spinal surgery, was on drugs, and that's why he was acting weird. Legal drugs, prescription drugs for spinal pain, so he could have surgery on his spine and a day later be on the campaign trail. Boy, whoever had that idea was an idiot. You ever had spinal problem, just a little one where you can't get out of bed, you're in screaming pain? Rick Perry got hopped up on Oxycontin or something like it's the word. He said serious medication, remember, and went out and didn't know who he was. And so that's the only reason Rick Perry didn't give Obama a run for his money. They want to destroy him, folks. And it's not that I think he's some great hope against the Democrats. It's that if they can start arresting frontrunners in a political campaign, do you think we're just about done as a country? Stick a fork in us? I'm going to say it again. If they arrested Michael Moore for putting a film out against Bush, I would come to his aid and say it is terrible and we're all in danger. But nobody arrested Michael Moore. They arrested D'Souza. And they're coming after anyone who doesn't want to destroy this country. Even if you're a boss hog politician that just wants business as usual but doesn't want to bring down the country, even if you're corrupt but don't want to sink the nation, they're coming after you, folks, because Eric Holder and the globalists hate this country. They want to bring it down. Do you understand that? They don't like prosperity. They don't like wealth. They don't like success. They have a vendetta. And it's called Agenda 21. We're going to go to our reporters in Ferguson. ISIS abducts more Westerners, promises beheadings, propaganda theater ahead of U.S. invasion of Syria. And they're on the news saying, we told you, John Kerry, we told you we had to go into Syria, or ISIS, Al-Qaeda, would get a foothold. You didn't listen. Now we, excuse me, we have to bomb for ISIS to take over, or ISIS will take over. And they were planting this a year ago. You watch, these radical Muslims are going to cause trouble in the region if we don't go in and take out Assad and them after giving them the weapons. Talk about Machiavelli. I'm John Kerry. Yes, we've got to take all your rights away, or Al-Qaeda will hit you in America. Yeah, Al-Qaeda, you armed at Benghazi. I mean, it's so incredible how criminal these people are. And so, yeah, if you've seen me throw myself behind the Tea Party in the last year, it's because the whole system came out against them, the Republican leadership came out against them, all the big think tanks came out against them, all the foreign money came out against them, because they know it's one of the only hopes for this country to peacefully beat the system. They know liberty's popular. They know if it gets sold to Hispanics and blacks, it's game over. They know if people rediscover Americana and wealth and prosperity and freedom and justice, it's all over for the New World Order. And so they're all hands on deck trying to shut down the Tea Party right now. They already tried to take it over. That didn't work. Now they're trying to gut it. And not because it's perfect, but because it's real. It knows about the Federal Reserve. It's pro-family. It's pro-gun. It's pro-life. It's pro-sovereignty. It's anti-welfare state. It's anti-corporate welfare. It's anti-banker bailout. It's anti-monopoly. It's pro-American industry, pro-farmer, pro-man, pro-woman, pro-child. And they're on TV saying 2 + 2 = 5. They're on TV saying your kids belong to the state. And you didn't build your business. Now, do you think radicals like this are scared of the Tea Party? They call us the counter-revolutionaries in their meetings. They are the revolutionaries, and they know it. And they're not going to give up, ladies and gentlemen, without a fight. Now, if you were them, what would you do? You'd provocateur race war. You'd open the borders up. You'd shut down the industry to bankrupt people onto the dole so that you had enough people on the system so you could get them to vote to enslave the others. With Homeland Security lined up to crush the Tea Party if they don't play ball by staging a false flag to then demonize the Tea Party and arrest its leadership. That's now in the Army training manuals, and they're training to take on the gun owners and demonizing the Founding Fathers to the Army general enlisted now. That's why the military woke up so much the last few years and swole the ranks of our listers. We went from very popular with the military to the most popular. I mean, for real. Because they know what they're hearing here is real, because they're getting the training. And they're going, George Washington's bad? Gun owners? Rural people? I'm training to take on Christians? Alex Jones here for Infowars.com. We're going to be intensifying our efforts to awaken free humanity to the scourge of the globalist in the month of July. And starting this July 4th, we are going to slash prices in a celebration of true Americana, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence on all of the Made in America products that you will find at madein1776.com or InfoWarsStore.com. We're talking about Made in America belt buckles in brass and nickeled brass that state it loud and proud. Molon Labe. That's why we have the best-selling Made in America men's and women's Molon Labe Infowars.com shirts. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a win-win. You vote with your dollars. You support the most hardcore organization out there for promoting true ideas of libertarianism, constitutionalism, basic human empowerment. But more importantly, you get T-shirts and belt buckles so you can meet like-minded people. So you have a conversation starter with friends and family and coworkers. We are reaching out to each other. And you also throw it in the face of the anti-gunners and the rest of the parasites out there that you're a free man and woman and that you're not going to be a slave, that you're not going to be intimidated to shut up by their tyranny that they call political correctness. That's why in the month of July, we have got giant specials on everything at madein1776.com. But to expand the InfoWar, we're offering the biggest special in the history, 13 years of PrisonPlanet.tv, our multimedia platform. We're offering the equivalent of more than 5 months free right now when you get a membership at PrisonPlanet.tv, and you get 11 memberships that can be used with the same username and passcode so you can share it with friends and family. Now is the time to fund the war bonds. Now is the time to fund the InfoWar. Now is the time to get aggressive. Now is the time to double down. Now is the time to realize you are the people that made the InfoWar so successful and one of the leading lights worldwide against tyranny. You don't stand behind us, you stand right beside us. And I salute all of you on this July 4th, 2014, and going forward in the month of July and onward. This is about freedom worldwide and that desire for human dignity and self-determination that beats in the human breast. We are brothers and sisters together in the true spirit of liberty and the animating contest of liberty. And so I quote in closing the great Thomas Jefferson that I have sworn on the altar of God resistance against every form of tyranny. And never forget, if you are watching or listening to this transmission, you are the resistance.